Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Maddox AI and Customer Success Summit. It is the last session of what's been a really educational day. You are currently watching the workshop of how to use AI to turn data into insights. I'm very excited to introduce our speaker. And as I introduce her, I'm going to have her answer our icebreaker question, which is what would you use AI to automate in your life outside of work? So we are lucky today to have Jen Snyder, Senior Technical Account Manager at Matic, presenting.
Hello, hello, everyone. And thank you so much for joining the session. I'm excited to share what we have with you today. And if I can use AI to automate a portion or something in my life, that's a really good question, Max. I mean, we're not there yet. On a funny note, blow dry my hair because that would be amazing. But aside from that, I think I would have AI tell me um, what grocery stores would carry sugar-free bacon. I'm on the sugar-free kick, and it you can only find it in certain places. One Whole Foods, but the grocers near me don't really have it. So if AI could tell me the groceries within like a 4 mile radius, that would make my life easier.
I love that answer, but maybe instead of sugar-free bacon, I might be looking for something else for AI to alert me to. Before I hand it off to Jen, just a reminder for everyone watching, if you have any questions at any point in the session, go ahead and go to the Zoom control bar and use the Q&A feature. We'll be answering questions throughout the session as well as at the end. Okay, Jen, I'll hand it off to you.
Awesome. I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. As I said earlier, thank you everyone for joining this session. We're excited for you to see what we have in store for you. Listed in front of you are the agenda items that we're going to be covering today, in addition to some time estimates of each exercise, so that you're aware of what's going to come next and how long it's going to take. Just as a quick reminder, make sure you are set up with the following. That's an email linked to your Google account, a SQL query that you would like to refine. If you don't have one, that's okay. Don't worry about that. A presentation you would like to gain insights from, and a data report either in a Google Sheet or Excel format. If you don't have any of these items, don't worry, that's okay. We do have a sample presentation ready to go for you to utilize for today's exercise, in addition to a sample data sheet report as well. You'll find a help documentation within the chat that has links to everything that we're going to utilize today, and also some reference as we walk through these exercises. Once we're done with everything, we'll go ahead and wrap up with a Q&A at the last 10 minutes of the workshop. So at a high level, we'll be exploring some concepts today using the crawl, walk, run approach. So think of it as like taking small steps to harness the power of AI. We'll go ahead and start with the crawl phase, which is something that you can get started with right now. And then we'll go ahead and transition to walk, which is a bit more advanced, but still very doable today. And then finally, we'll reach the run stage where you'll see the full potential of AI in action. So let's go ahead and kick off with the crawl phase. And in order to complete this, we'll be utilizing ChatGPT to create and refine a query. So ChatGPT is an AI-powered chatbot that has gained significant attention for the sheer variety of comments and queries that it can respond to and provide inputs for. So before I go ahead and switch gears and log into ChatGPT to start the first exercise, go ahead and log into your ChatGPT account. Now, if you don't have one today, you can create one. It is free. Once you log in, we're going to go ahead and start with either option one or option two. So if you don't have a SQL query, we're going to leverage ChatGPT to create one for us. If you do have a SQL query and want to refine it and see what I do to refine a SQL query, you can do that as well. But for today's workshop, I'm going to go ahead and do both. So let me go ahead and switch my window. I'm going to wait, I'll say like a minute, just make sure that everybody can log into ChatGPT so you're able to follow along. And while we are waiting for this 1 minute, if you have any questions or excitement that you want to share, go ahead and put it in the chat. All right. So before I get started with leveraging ChatGPT to create a SQL query for myself, there are some things that I want to bring to your attention, and that's actually the limitations of ChatGPT. A couple of the limitations that I really want to highlight is the inability to ask clarifying questions. So if your input is ambiguous, ChatGPT might guess your intention rather than asking clarifying questions for a better understanding. So please be mindful of that. Another thing I want to bring to your attention is the limited context window. ChatGPT, the model itself has a fixed context window, which means they may not remember information mentioned earlier if you have a longer conversation, which can lead to inconsistent responses. So please keep that in mind. With those 2 points brought up, I would like to highlight some best practices that will help you in leveraging ChatGPT. First, be very specific, especially when you want ChatGPT to create a query for you. And by specific, I mean list the table and column names to avoid ambiguity. Also, clearly state any conditions, filters, or sorting requirements. And lastly, the more precise you are in your description, the better the generated query will be. Okay, so with all those points in mind, let's go ahead and dig in and get started. Now, I have some prompts here that are already available just to speed things up because I am a slow typer. Nobody wants to watch me type. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in my first prompt. And basically, I'm using a very easy example of customer orders. So what I mean by customer orders is I have an order table and a customer table. Within my order table, my column IDs are my product and my price. And within my customer table, my column ID names are name and email. I also let ChatGPT know that my customer ID in my order tables is my foreign key referencing the ID column in my customer table. So after I've laid out all the tables and columns that I have, I'm asking ChatGPT to write a SQL query that's going to find the total revenue of each customer by calculating the sum of their order prices. So now that I have that in the chat, I'll go ahead and send it. And ChatGPT just created a SQL query for me. So as we take a look at this, ChatGPT is utilizing the join and group by clause to make this happen. As we scroll down a little bit and take a look at the query and seeing what ChatGPT is doing, they're selecting the ID name and email columns for my customer table and also calculating the price utilizing the sum function. It is also using a join to join the two tables because I referenced my foreign key in both my orders and customer table. And it's grouping by the results, the name and email. As you can see, it's saying here, just replace customer ID, name, and email with the actual column names in your database if they are named differently. You can then copy this code, put it in your database or whatever tool that you're utilizing to search for those results, which is really cool. But let's say I want to take this a step further. I have the information that I want, but I want to filter it down by customer location. The one caveat to that is I've already told ChatGPT my order and customer table, which doesn't include location. So I'm going to have to tell ChatGPT additional information to filter down and refine my original SQL query. So really quickly, let me grab that information. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the prompt. I'm telling ChatGPT I have another table called customer address. The columns within this table are my customer ID, street, city, and state. I also mentioned that my customer ID is the foreign key to the customer table. Amend the previous SQL query to filter customers from Chicago. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to ChatGPT. And of course, it's working its magic as usual. And so as you can see, the SQL query is pretty much the same. The only difference is that it's adding an additional join because I have an additional table. It's also using the where clause because I want to filter down by location. And so it's looking at the column, which has Chicago. And of course, ChatGPT is reminding me, make sure to adjust the table and column names according to your actual schema if they differ. So just to pause really quickly, I've asked ChatGPT to create a SQL query for me, okay, by being specific and giving my table names, my column names, and the foreign key. And I've also asked ChatGPT to refine that query to narrow down my results by location. But let's say I have a long running query. Let's just pretend I have a long running query and I want to make my query more efficient. ChatGPT can do that for me. So really quickly, let me grab my prompt that I have ready to go. And I'm asking ChatGPT, I want to create one or more indexes that makes this query most efficient. Please assist. And so ChatGPT is giving me some recommendations on how I can optimize and make my query more efficient by creating an index for the order table, customer table, and customer address. What I love about ChatGPT, it's telling me at the end, adding these indexes will help the database engine efficiency. But it also says, keep in mind, while indexes can significantly enhance your query performance, they do come with some overhead in terms of storage and maintenance. So it's also telling me, hey, you can do this, but also be mindful of this. So before we transition to our walk portion of today's workshop, I just want to remind you and reiterate, be mindful of ChatGPT's limitations. And also be mindful of the best practices that I have given you. Again, the more precise you are in your description, the better the generated query will be. So this is just a perfect example of how ChatGPT can be your handy partner when refining your data and creating SQL queries. So before I transition, I'm going to pause right there. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. My teammate, Sheldon, is moderating the chat. So any questions that you have, he'll be able to assist you.
Yeah, really quickly on that note, Jen, one of our attendees noted how the prompts that I was posting in the chat are not able to be copied and pasted. Apologies for that. I just posted a link to the Google Doc that houses all of the prompts there. So if you would like to practice what Jen walked through, feel free to go to that page, copy, and then place them in the same order that she did.
Thank you so much, Sheldon. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my presentation. So as I said earlier, we're going to go ahead and cover the walk portion of today's workshop. So many of you have already nailed the step of creating and refining your SQL query, working with documents that are bursting with text, tables, and eye-catching charts. But the challenge shifts to efficiently analyze and drawing insights from data points. And this is where Presentation Enhancer will help you achieve this. Presentation Enhancer is a free Google Slide add-on that utilizes AI to automate executive summaries for an entire slide deck or talk tracks for an individual slide. Now, for this next activity, we'll be generating both options for a presentation of your selection. And this is where one of the prerequisites of bringing your own presentation comes into play. If you don't have your own presentation deck, that's completely fine. We do have a sample one. I believe the link to that presentation deck is listed within the help documentation. So feel free to reference that and review that presentation. But before you do, there are some things that I want to cover. If you have your own presentation or utilizing the demo presentation we're providing to you, if you're using the demo presentation, download it, but download it as a copy so that other users within this workshop is not updating the same presentation that you're utilizing. Also, upload your presentation into your Google Drive as Google Slides. Okay. If you have a PowerPoint presentation, go ahead and upload it into your Google Drive. The caveat with Presentation Enhancer, it works best with Google Slides. So you would have to save your PowerPoint presentation as a Google Slide in order to use the Presentation Enhancer feature. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and switch gears and demo Presentation Enhancer for you. As I said earlier, it is a Google add-on. There's a link to Presentation Enhancer within the Google Doc that is listed in the chat. Feel free to add this add-on onto your browser. Go ahead and go through, yes, I agree with all the things, so that you can utilize it today. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the demo presentation that we're utilizing. I'm going to go ahead and utilize this. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy. I'll make a copy of the entire presentation. I'll go ahead and rename it and make a copy. Close that out. I'll go ahead and close this out. All right, so here's my presentation. It's a standard quarterly business review. I mean, you have your agenda, the team, executive summary, some data points, so on and so forth. So pretty general of what you want to present to your customer. But I'm having difficulty creating an executive summary or a talk track. So first, I'd like to back up a little bit and say, you know, if you're a CSM today, or you're new to the organization and you're trying to find out how data is being collected, what is valuable to the customer, and you're not quite sure how to convey that in your own voice, Presentation Enhancer will help you with that. So in order to do that, I'll go ahead and select extensions on the top menu. I will select Presentation Enhancer and select Enhance Presentation. Now you'll notice a menu on the right-hand side will populate. You have the option to generate an executive summary or get a talk track for the current slide. So I'm going to go ahead and select Generate Executive Summary. And you'll notice I'll have some options here. I can select the style, I can select the persona, and the format. So this is really cool because it could be whatever you pick and choose. For style, I'll go ahead and select formal. Persona, I'll leave it at executive, but you do have some other options here. And for format, I'm going to go ahead and select a paragraph. So once I have all of that, I'll go ahead and select Generate Executive Summary. And while this is populating, feel free to put any questions within the chat if you have any. All right, so now I have my executive summary. So what Presentation Enhancer has done has reviewed my entire deck, pulled the most invaluable information, and placed it in a paragraph as I requested. So as you can see, just high level, Simple Ticket has demonstrated significant success this quarter, resolving a total of 6,600 tickets with an impressive average resolution time of 16 hours. Pretty valuable. And as I scroll down, let's see if there's any other helpful information that I would like to highlight. Return on investment. I think that that's really important. This has led to substantial savings of approximately 728,000 per year, equating to the full equating to the work of 19 full-time employees. Pretty impactful. So things to be mindful of. If you feel like that this is not in your voice or you need to make some modifications, that's okay. The biggest takeaway here is that AI is scanning your presentation, pulling out the most valuable data for you to deliver to your customer. And also, it's going to save you time. Previously, and today, I create presentations, and before Matic, it would take me hours to generate a good talk track. So you have the ability to copy, and you can place it anywhere within your presentation. So here I do have a slide for executive summary, and I can place it under key takeaways here on the right-hand side. You can also place this information on a one-pager. Let's say you want to send out a high-level overview. After your TBR, you can definitely put this information in your one-pager. Now let's go ahead and talk about a talk track. Presentation Enhancer can definitely do that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and select this back button right here, and I'll go ahead and select Get Talk Track. And as you can see, same options as before. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the style of confidence. I'll go ahead and select the persona of leader, and I want a bulleted list. All right. So here's my bulleted list. The team has effectively resolved 6,600 out of 7,000 tickets received. The average resolution time stands at 16 hours per ticket. A total of 130 end users have been assigned, with an estimated 91% of them utilizing the platform for request handling. So again, here's another example of AI looking at the the current slide and creating a talk track for you. Another thing that I wanted to point out before we go to the next portion of today's workshop, you do have the ability to make your talk track or your executive summary either longer or shorter. So you do have that option. All right. And that is Presentation Enhancer. It's a pretty awesome tool. I think it would give your team or yourself confidence in presenting data to your customers and telling a rich story. All right. So now we are going to talk about the run portion of today's workshop. So really quickly, the two previous exercises represent ways that you can leverage AI independently of our platform. As we transition to the run portion of the workshop, we will walk through the dynamic content creation process to showcase how you can generate insights as part as your presentation creation step. So let's go ahead and jump into Matic. So 1 second while I switch gears here. Let me my apologies. I have a password vault. All right. So before you log into your self-serve account, you were supposed to create one prior to the workshop. If you haven't created one, that is fine. You can create a self-serve account right now. There should be a link in the chat that will give you instructions on how to do so. Utilize your Google or Gmail address. I want to put a caveat out there. If you are a Matic customer today, you're probably already a user, so you have to add the plus sign and AICSS workshop before the @ sign in your email address in order to create a self-serve account. All right, I'm gonna pause for a couple minutes just to make sure anyone that is following along that they're able to log in.
One thing I'll quickly note as well, everyone, while Jen is pausing, is when you go through the workflow to set up a self-serve account, you should then receive an email sent to the email address that you use, whether it be your personal email address or a work-related email address, but with the plus and the AICSS workshop addendum added to it. Either way, you should receive an email from our CEO, Nick Mick, with the title line login to Matic. So you're going to locate that, and then it should allow you to access this page. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'm monitoring that. We also have another one of our team members on standby to help with questions as well.
Thank you so much, Sheldon. So what I mentioned earlier regarding the sample data report, if you don't have an Excel or Google Sheet today, that's fine. We do have a sample one. It should be listed within the help documentation. Once you click on the link, feel free to save a copy of the sample data. And this is what the Google Sheet looks like, just for your reference. So before we talk about AI insights, I want to connect the dots for you a little bit. So we're going to have to go through a process in order to utilize the AI insights. And the process is we're going to create a data source first, which is the data report that we're going to utilize. We're then going to create a piece of dynamic content. And then we're going to create another piece of dynamic content, which is the AI insight. And then we're going to test it so you can see how all of that flows together. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Really quickly, I'm going to save a copy of this. Copy of sample data. I will go ahead and close this out. And now I'm going to connect my data source or create a data source. So in order to do that, if you are already logged in, and if you're not, that's fine. This session is recorded, so you have something to reference to at your own time. You'll go ahead and select data sources, and we're going to add a new data source. Now you have two ways of doing this. I can either select a Google Sheet here on my dashboard, or I can select add new. I'll then select the data source type. In this case, it is a Google Sheet. So I'll go ahead and scroll and find my Google Sheet. And then we want to give this data source a name. So I'll go ahead and put AICSS workshop. And then we're going to go ahead and select the Google Sheet. So, oops, 1 second. Just let me refresh. All right, there we go. So here is the copy of my sample data for the workshop. We'll go ahead and select this, and we'll go ahead and add the data source. Now I have a data source. The next step is to create a piece of dynamic content. So we will select dynamic content located on the top navigation menu. And we're going to go ahead and just select add new. So the type of dynamic content that we want to create will be data driven. This information will pull from your data source, which is the one that we just created. We're going to go ahead and give this dynamic content a name. I'll go ahead and call it resolution time. So basically, I'm pulling the info from this data source, and it is tickets by day. I have two columns of channel and resolution time. So the channels are phone, social, web, and email. So for my description, I'm just going to type in quickest resolution time. All right. Now, the next thing I need to select is my data source. So it's the data source that we just connected, which is the Google Sheet. I'll go ahead and select the data source, and you'll notice my screen has changed. I have the option of creating a piece of dynamic content in the form of text, chart, table, or image. I'm going to go ahead and select chart. And then it's asking me for my sheet input and my sheet output. For today's example, I only need an output. I want it to output data. But I also wanted to mention that I do have the ability to select an input. And what that means is if I have any calculations within my Google Sheet, Matic, this platform, can go ahead and pick up that calculation and output it into my dynamic content. And as a result, be placed onto my presentation. So it's not just a feature of taking data and placing it, it's also working with complex data to output that information as well. But since I only want a sheet output, I'll go ahead and enter my column names, which is channel and resolution time. And then I'm going to select the data I want it to pull for my data source or my Google Sheet. So I'll go ahead and highlight these two columns. And then next, before I add this piece of dynamic content, I want to make sure it works. So I'm going to go ahead and test this really quickly. And it works just fine. Here is my tickets by day, channel, and resolution time, and the data that I want to populate. So I'll go ahead and add this piece of dynamic content. And now I'm ready to utilize the AI insight. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and add another piece of dynamic content. So go ahead and select add new. And this time you're going to select the insights tile. So I'll go ahead and select create. And we're going to give this piece of dynamic content a name. I'll call it time insights. So I want to give this a description as well. So I'll put the same thing, quickest. All right. So this is where the magic happens. Here within my insight screen, I have the ability to describe. If I click this drop box, I have more options. So if I wanted to describe, the AI insight feature will provide a description of your dynamic content output. If I were to select analyze, it'll identify trends when your dynamic content returns complex data. Summarize provides a high-level summary of the data returned by the dynamic content. And of course, last, compare looks at two different types of dynamic content. So you have the ability to select and choose what type of data you want to show to your customer. Again, I'll go ahead and select describe. And then you have to select the piece of dynamic content you want the AI insight to review and describe for you. So since we just created resolution time, go ahead and select that. It's not populating here. Let me refresh my screen really quick. I don't know if it's saved. Fine. Want to describe, there we go, resolution time. I'm gonna go ahead and select a paragraph. All right. Again, you have the option to have one sentence, a bulleted list, or a number list, or a paragraph. I'm going to select paragraph, and let's go ahead and test this. All right. So the AI Insight took a look at my piece of dynamic content. It looked at the insights items that I wanted to complete, and it outputted a paragraph for me. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. The provided data illustrates the resolution time across 4 different communication channels. The phone channel is the most effective with the quickest resolution time of 12 units. The social channel follows with a resolution time of 23 units. The web channel has a slightly longer resolution time of 32 units. The email channel has the longest resolution time of all, so on and so forth. This looks good, but what's units? Why are you giving me units? And so when we look at this and we think about this, it's in minutes. I didn't put that clearly in my description in my dynamic content. So now I'm going to go ahead and refine that. So really quickly, let me go ahead and add this piece of AI Insights because I like it. And I don't want to create this again. So we'll go ahead and add it. We'll go back to our original dynamic content that we created, which is called resolution time. And we're going to refine this description. So this is going back to our initial exercise of crawl, right? Best practice, be as specific as possible so you have the best result. So I'm going to go back to my description, quickest resolution time, but either phone, social, web, or email. I'm going to put measured in minutes. And I'll go ahead and update that. I'll go back to my dynamic content, the AI Insight. I'll go ahead and test this again. So it's best practice to test and test often. I'm showing you the process of what I would do for my customer utilizing this AI Insight. All right. The data illustrates the average resolution time across 4 different communication channels. The phone channel offers the quickest resolution time, averaging around 12 minutes. So now it's looking at my description of the piece of dynamic content that I want it to describe, and it's usually using the time in minutes instead of units. Now, as I look over this is great, but what would my customer want to see? I think they would want to see their ideal resolution time. And let's say that ideal resolution time is under 30 minutes. So let me go back to my initial dynamic piece of content and let me update this description again and add the ideal is Let me go ahead and update this. Let me go back to my AI Insight, and let's go ahead and test this again. All right. Data provided, the resolution time across various channels, yada, yada, yada. The fastest resolution time is achieved through the phone channel, averaging in 12 minutes. As I look through this, if I look at the last line, it's noteworthy that the ideal resolution time is targeted at under 30 minutes, a standard that is currently only met by the phone and social channels. So now I'm not only telling my customer that what is the fastest resolution time, but I'm also pointing out that, or AI is also pointing out that it realizes the targeted resolution time is under 30 minutes. And here are the two pieces of the channel that meet that goal. So when you place this piece of dynamic content into your presentation, one, it saves you time from reading the data and analyzing it yourself, but it also gives you the opportunity to leverage AI to not only make you more efficient, but help you understand what would be valuable to that customer. So that is everything within this workshop. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Just as a reminder, the crawl phase, we utilize ChatGPT to create a SQL query for us to refine that query as well. Those are something that you can use today. Another item that you can use today is presentation enhancer during our walk phase, being able to create a executive summary and a talk track for a specific slide. And then finally, the run phase, utilizing the AI insights within the Matic application to review dynamic content and analyze it for me. So with that being said, let me go ahead and switch back. Any questions? Please put them in the chat. Or Sheldon, if you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. We do have one question that's coming from Yarlene, and they said, for the presentation enhancer plugin, what assurance as far as data security is provided, especially when leveraging it for customer business reviews that include metrics? So, Jen, I would love to hear your thoughts. I can provide a few of my own, but yeah, that was one of the questions we received.
For sure. So I know we do have a help documentation regarding this particular item, explaining what our presentation enhancer is doing in terms of reviewing your deck, utilizing AI, and what is happening with that data. I can't tell you right now verbatim what it says, my apologies, but I know we can provide that item within the help documentation. I think it's listed on there. We have a help center documentation regarding presentation enhancer, and on the very bottom, it lists what our process is doing. If you have any additional questions regarding that, or if that particular documentation does not answer your question, that's completely fine. Please put it in the chat. We'll go ahead and notate it. And then I know when this workshop is going to be on demand, I believe we'll also reach out to any questions that we haven't answered to everyone here so that you have it for your reference. Sheldon, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, to Jen's point, I posted 2 links. I'm about to post a 3rd one, but the first link is our presentation enhancer article that was written up and is available on our online help center. The bottom, there's a section that talks about security and sort of privacy. I also listed just Matic's company-wide privacy policy, although that being said, we don't store any content of anyone that leverages presentation enhancer. We're just making it available as a means of helping customers basically expedite the process of having to create talk tracks and executive summaries. And then the last thing I'm going to post is the OpenAI ChatGPT for like research overview. I think our keynote speaker this morning, Elisa, she noted that ChatGPT, in terms of the models that they use, I think there's a lot of security concerns around, if I use ChatGPT or some other system or platform powered by OpenAI, is my information or is my customer's information then going to be utilized to train these models? And she very promptly dispelled that thinking and noted that they have models that they're working off of that do not leverage whatsoever any of the information that's being touched sort of extraneously by their tools. So I completely hear you, Arlene. It's always a question of security, but hopefully that helps to answer the question.
Thank you so much, Sheldon.
Of course. We have another question, Jen, from Winnie, who asks, say I have 50 companies I want to reach through presentations. Can it take a template and auto make those 50 presentations with dynamic insights? Do I still need to go to each presentation to make those insights? So once again, Jen, would love to hear your thoughts on this one.
I got good news for you, Winnie. No. So if you are a Matic customer and you're talking about AI insights, once you have your templates, there's a process called tagging. Once you create your dynamic content, you would tag your templates, okay? And the input or the customer that you would select to run that presentation, Matic would know it's for X customer, therefore this dynamic content or AI insights is specific for that one customer. So you would have the ability to bulk generate a presentation for your 50 customers, and Matic would know based on the customers that you selected, the AI insights would be specific to those 50 customers. The only thing you would have to do is spot check the presentation to make sure that the data populated as expected. But yeah.
Yeah, and Winnie had a follow-up where they asked, how do I prepare the data? Do I make 50 data sets? I think Jen touched upon this in her response, but a lot of our customers, they're working off, various tables within data sources that they connect to. But normally what we see is, and this is another facet of our platform Matic, but normally what we see is we work with admins to create what are known as inputs. And inputs can be thought of as filters, essentially, on a dashboard, or in this case, a data source. And that tells Matic, okay, I am pulling from X tables from this database, and I want to pull information for these 50 customers that I have. That would be an input in Matic, and that would be essentially how Matic is able to pull information that is specific to the accounts that you're interested in. So a little bit of nitty-gritty background into Matic as a tool, but in short, Winnie, you would not have to essentially make 50 data sets. You would not have to populate the data yourself. That all of that process would be done in the back end by Matic. Great question, though. Any other questions from attendees, either about some of the activities that we went through, or I should say Jen went through when it came to ChatGPT, presentation enhancer, automated insights within Matic? Any and all questions are welcome. I may pose a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sheldon.
A quick question. Jen, how have you seen automated insights be utilized by maybe some of the accounts that you work with at Matic? Once Matic generates this wonderful, summary or analysis or even comparison perhaps between two distinct data points or pieces of dynamic content, what have you seen admins then do with the insight dynamic content? How do they incorporate it?
For sure, that's a really good question. So for instance, I have one customer who is in the transportation space and utilized AI insights for their quarterly deck review. And basically, AI insights were able to look at their data that they have stored of when their peak rides are and when is their downtime. This utilized or this enabled the admins to look at, okay, well, maybe we need to run a special or a discount in the afternoon so we can get more rides or transportation requests within the afternoon. And that's not something that they had eyes into previously. So that was able to give them insight on what their heavy traffic is, when during the month or quarter is there heavy traffic, time of day. It just opens so much data for them to utilize, and also gave their CSMs the opportunity to not only tell a story, but tell a story with impactful data for their customers.
It's amazing. And all of that is sort of automated as part of the generation process. So,
All of it's
cool.
all, yeah, automated and part of the generation process. I would have to say the admins or the insights team who does maintain the data, they're the ones that we work with closely to set up everything. But as an end user, your CSM team, they would just select the accounts, run the presentation, and it would be generated within minutes.
That's magical. Amazing. I'll stop there. But thank you, Jen, for answering that question.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I don't think we have any other questions, so we can wrap up. Thank you so much, Jen
Okay.
and Sheldon, for walking us through all of this. Everyone, you will have access to the recording, so don't worry. And yeah, I'll pass it off to Jen to wrap up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bex. The one thing that I wanted to mention before we wrap everything up, first, thank you so much for your time and your interest and your curiosity on how to utilize AI to better your data and tell a better story for your customers. Also, wanted to mention that the Matic Presentation Enhancer for Google Slides is a free tool. So you can use that right now after the workshop if you like. So please utilize that as a tool in your toolbox. Another thing I wanted to mention is your self-service account is a free trial to Matic, which is good for 30 days. So if you create dynamic content, putting in your presentation, please be mindful to download your presentation before the 30 days expires. And when you log into your self-service account, at the top, it'll tell you trial 29 days left. But if you love Matic so much and you want to continue using Matic, feel free to reach out to our sales team for a demo. They'll be more than happy to show you how Matic can make your life easier. That's all I got.
And final thing on my side is I'm going to post a link to this presentation for people to refer back to if, as Jen was saying, you want to reference the recording of the session, maybe follow along with the slides on your own device. So I'm gonna post that right now. But yeah, just want to reiterate, thank you everybody for your interest in turning data into insights, leveraging AI, and hearing us talk about how to do so with tools that are available today, but then also some things that are specific to Matic. So thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.